Good evening, everyone. Okay, love the energy. So before we get kicked off, I would like everyone to take a look to your left. Okay, now to your right. Behind you. And now back up to me. Okay, I'm betting in one of the four directions you looked in, you saw someone from a different department, from a different school, even from a different geographic location. And that's why the Green Roof team and what we've been doing for the past 2.5 years has been interesting and unique, because we're able to touch upon all these different areas and pull in information from all over to help one single focus point, one purpose: reframing how the SIU Green Roof is being used. That not only spurred the project on hand, but instead was able to spur so many different projects in the clean energy side, from artificial intelligence, that didn't involve just students here on campus, but involved students from other universities across the country and even different countries. We're able to pull in so many different perspectives that it made the project grow in different ways than we anticipated. We saw many highs and we saw many lows, but because we were so diverse and we built a tight-knit team, we're able to overcome any obstacle we faced. Any obstacle we didn't face, we didn't call it failure, but instead we learned from it and we're able to move forward. So in the beginning, we have a green roof here on campus, an amazing 5,000 square foot space on the agriculture building. It was made about 10 years ago, back in 2010, pioneered by an amazing woman, Karen Midden, the dean at the time. And it was focused on showcasing native plants in the area, as well as urban horticulture projects by students and faculty. It's an incredible space, and I know from experience I was quite speechless the first time I was up there. Who knew plants could grow on a rooftop? And over the past 2.5 years, we've been focused on the different projects, from the wind turbines to solar installations, as well as an irrigation system. Because these are projects that our team members are interested in and inspired to pursue, which is a big reason why we all came to university, to be able to explore topics and ideas that we're interested in and we want to pursue in the future. And if we find out along the way that we're not interested in any of these technologies, well, that's a lesson learned, and we found something that we didn't find interest in, and we can find a new path sooner on. So we asked everyone as you came in about the word impact. Would anyone like to share what the word impact means to them? Josh? Thank you for sharing. So these are all the words we have on the screen, and from what I can tell, almost all but one focuses on bringing positivity, bringing change. And if you're the one person who's different, I'm betting they're an engineer, F equals MA. For myself personally, impact, just like how Josh stated, is focused on other people. Different actions you can take that can help others become inspired, help them find a different path, and help them get to their next step. And that's the beauty of the Green Roof team, is so many different individuals being involved. The impact that we had was large. Maybe not on a large scale over countries and different states, but it was large in terms of the number of people that we impacted, the number of lives that were touched by what we were doing here. For example, a few different categories that we've been measuring over the years were focused on the number of people who are participating in our design thinking workshops. These workshops were focused on ideating new solutions on our projects, bringing people together, and we'll hear more about it later on. Another area was the total number of team members involved. As you can see, we have about 24 students involved domestically, meaning here on campus. Internationally, they're outside of the Carbondale area, so not outside the US, but outside of Carbondale. We had students from Texas, Ohio, California, Florida, and many others in the US, as well as from the Netherlands, London, Puerto Rico, and Turkey, all coming together virtually to be able to collaborate and find elegant solutions to our engineering problems, as well as finding new ways on branching out and finding our new audience. And we'll hear more about our resiliency during the pandemic and how we saw an opportunity out of it instead of different obstacles. Also, we had different social media outlooks. We started a podcast last June, and over the past about 9 months now, we have been growing slowly but surely, having different guests on the show as well as team members and different sponsors. We'll dive more into that later on as well. And overall, having a strong social media presence from LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, just being able to tell our story and help share with others what we have going on. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, whenever I log into the email or I go into social media, every once in a while I'll see an email, an inquiry, a DM about someone who wants to know more about what we're doing. How does a wind turbine function? How can I apply what you're doing here to something I'm interested in doing where I am? Those are the meaningful connections that I know I enjoy and our team members do as well. Before we continue, I do want to give a shout out to some amazing individuals. If I named every person who was involved with the Green Roof team over the past 2.5 years, we would be here a long, long time. And while I appreciate everyone's help, assistance, making connections, a few people who played a big role would have to be the University Innovation Fellows champions here on campus, especially Lynn Lindberg and Carla Berry, our faculty champions. So please give a round of applause to them. Someone who's been a guide for myself as I navigated the Green Roof project in the beginning, Dr. Groniger, the Associate Dean of the College of Agriculture, Life, and Physical Sciences. A person who's an amazing innovator on his own, someone who shares amazing ideas, and the director of the Advanced Energy Institute, Dr. Ken Anderson. This next person is focused on sustainability, and I'll be honest, in the beginning, when I thought about sustainability, I always thought energy efficiency, how do we produce more energy cleanly, but this person taught me much more about sustainability from an educational standpoint and people. Someone who's been running the SIU Sustainability Office with the highest pedigree, Karen Schurrecker. And two people who helped us with one of the most important parts of the project, the financial side, being able to fundraise with the Saluki Funder on the day of giving and finding new grants to write for, both Matt McCoy and Sydney Walker from the SIU Foundation. So before I hand off the mic to Lynn, who will talk more about the University Innovation Fellows Program, how we got started, there's one team member here present who's been playing a key role, a pivotal role, since we began back in 2019. Before we were the Green Roof team, even before we were the Green Roof project, someone that I met even before coming here to SIU Carbondale. He's my best friend, not only because we have so many like-minded interests, but we connect on so many different levels, and without him, we would not be here today. He's played a key role on not only the irrigation project or the marketing, but overall shaping how we carve our path here at SIU. So I'd like to announce that our not only team member of the year, but team member since we began is Prem Rana. So here I have a cutting board with his name engraved on it, the Green Roof logo, and member of the year, because Prem, anytime we need a help, you're always there with a sharp edge, and you always know the best ways to go about solving problems.
Well, yeah, no, this is.
Okay. Lynn, would you like to come up and share more about the University Innovation Fellows?
So just press that?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is an incredible group of young men and women that have been working on these project opportunities for several years. And during the pandemic, nothing stopped. That, I think, was the most incredible thing to me, was as we're kind of hunkered down in our homes and our offices and avoiding people, they were out there doing just the opposite. And I really would like to applaud them, all of us, for all their work. So you'll hear a lot about University Innovation Fellows, and I have been privileged to be part of this since we first had a fellow here at SIU back in 2013. We're wrapping up our 10th year of having students. So basically, we decided this was a good thing for SIU to do, to support these ideas and students and join with this community. Now, the community is such that it has become international. It started out being in California and in the Boston area, and then we all joined in. Now we have fellows from across the world. So this was when we started making connections to each other. Other fellows coming from other countries all getting together. This happened to be outside of Dubai, and we were very privileged to be there for about a 10-day trip. Of course, most of it was spent in an airplane, right? So connections also occur with traditions. And here are two of our fellows dressed up in the appropriate garb for being out in the desert. And we had the opportunity to try on headdresses as well as the gowns. We rode camels. We did all kinds of cool things. And you can see that one of our connections was to animals. So I don't know if you can tell, but we've got Jake there with a peregrine falcon on his head. And so he was learning how to hold his body so that the falcon would not just slice into him with those claws. And then many of the fellows were riding on the camels. What an incredible experience. Connections to religion. So we were able to go to Abu Dhabi as well and visit several different religious organizations and really old buildings that are still used for worship today. You're getting a theme here, right? Connections, because that's really what University Innovation Fellows is all about. Ideas. So here is one of the presenters. The presenters come from all over. Some work for corporate organizations, some work at universities, some are students, some are small business owners. Lots of ideas, lots of connections. Innovation, one of the buildings where we went and spent several hours learning about this particular company and its innovations. Connections to learning. Many universities are involved in University Innovation Fellows, hence the name, but we also, when we are going to a meetup, spend time with some of the host institutions. Partners. A lot of times the partners are local and small, but in this particular instance in Dubai, they've pulled in some pretty big sponsors. People, that's what it's all about, right? The students, the faculty champions, the sponsors, it's all about the people. You also have a chance to look at history, whether it's going to Stanford and looking at the physical facilities, learning more about the area, whether it's a small meetup in a local region. You learn about what happened in the past. And you connect to what's happening in the future. So this is the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, and they are building another one that will be taller. And so that will be located fairly close by. So our connection to Illinois. The Illinois Innovation Network is something that I had the opportunity to work with for the last few years, and we had our first Innovation Awards last year. I couldn't think of a better student representative for this program than Nelson. So got my computer out, wrote down a lot of things. The list went on and on about things that he had worked on and his accomplishments, and he won for the whole state. Also, I did the same thing with Dr. Ken Anderson, hiding behind the tree over there, and he also won for his work in in his business Thermoquatica and a lot of the underlying technologies that he developed here at SIU. It was a great moment, the first year of these Innovation Network opportunities for awards, and we got 2 of them. We were the only institution that did. Connections to campus, you might recognize the backdrop a little bit. That was here. So these are some of the recent fellows who got together through their training. They worked on projects, and then they received their pins from Chancellor Lane back in December. Connections to energy, and hence why we're here today looking at the green roof. So this is one of the many times that they were out there in the cold with their jackets on, showing people what was going on, adding to the turbine, or getting something else set up on the green roof. Connections to environment. You see it's getting a little better out there, not quite as cold. And finally, connections to the world. And that's one of the best things I see about University Innovation Fellows. The students are with us for such a short time, but they go out everywhere. And then we have lifelong friends and connections, and really that's what it's all about. So Green Roof team, you've done a great job. And we look forward to seeing you connect with the rest of the world. Thank you. And Prem, are you next? And Carla? Just watch where you walk.
Me first? Okay, so imagine all that can go wrong when 8 relative strangers travel from southern Illinois to Salzburg, Austria. But no. So stop it, because nothing went wrong. Everything was great. We traveled for, 24, 48 hours to get there through planes and trains and buses and cars. I was the one who came closest to the meltdown getting there when the train station wasn't where I expected it to be to get to the actual meeting. But luckily we had an LDP in our group, and Nelson took out his phone. He found the nearest train station, and we got there. So then we get to the meetup. Now this was the Alps meetup, and it was planned by a university there in Salzburg, so it was smaller than the large meetups that typically happen in Silicon Valley. So it was planned by the students and faculty there at the university. But everything was so great, and we had separate events for the champions, for the faculty, and for the students, for the fellows. So the very first night, I was whisked away to the champions. The students went in with the other fellows, and when I came back in, they were all just jamming together. So like the fellows from here immediately just jumped right in. And I don't think we have the picture, but at some point in the evening there was a piano in the building where we were meeting, and so Prem serenaded everyone and pretty much, kept everyone there late into the night with his piano playing. Grant and Jacob brought down the house with their Buckminster Fuller rap on our last day, and the energy was palpable. The way that the students and fellows got together, worked together, experimented, nothing went wrong, because we are University Innovation Fellows and Champions, because we study, we train creative problem solving, design thinking. And so throughout that week, it was just such a fabulous week. We didn't even worry too much on the way back when one of the fellows got pulled aside by customs. He's a forestry major, and he found a log by the river. There was this beautiful, we met in a castle. We were in an old kind of castle, and the beautiful river nearby. So as they were walking the trail, they found a log that some beavers had been gnawing on. And so he took a handful of these beaver chips, and he claimed them when we were going through customs on the way back. So of course we had to all kind of pull aside and wait, but that was all just great. And I think we were the last people, you know, as we were coming back into the US, when we were checking in, you know, going through security, they asked us, have you been to China lately? It's like, what's that about? And so about a week after we got back, the whole world shut down. Didn't stop these guys, though. I mean, Zoom was made for the Green Roof team, and they kept those meetings going, they kept those conversations going, they kept that work going. And I was especially pleased at this last meetup where, with the new cohort, so a few weeks ago we were at this year's meetup at Stanford University, and there were plenty of the students from the Netherlands, from Zurich, or from Salzburg, who were there, and you know, just like they're lifelong friends, as Lynn mentioned. So you know, definitely they need recognition for the outstanding work that they've done. It was such a joy to feel that energy in the room with all of those students, those fellows, solving problems, imagining a better future. So ask them more stories, look at more of their project, because if you're reading the news and you start to feel like, I just don't know what's gonna happen here, hanging out with the University Innovation Fellows, you'll feel like, you know, this world might just survive after all. So good job, guys.
Thank you, Carla. And for us, for me and Nelson personally, Austria was such a big turning point in this project. You know, as Lynn mentioned, a big part of University Innovation Fellow is the connections that we made. And we made a lot of connections across the nation. We have friends in the Netherlands, we have friends in Bulgaria, Germany, so on and so forth. But beyond the connections, there were a lot of ideas that we took away. Ideas that ultimately changed how this project would become. And so I kind of want to touch on some of these ideas. The first idea is this idea of how might we. At the early stages of the Green Roof team, there were many challenges that we had to face. But instead of associating a negative connotation to this, instead of calling it a challenge, we wanted to call it an opportunity. We took it as a challenge and took it upon ourselves to overcome those hurdles. And the best instance of this was the pandemic, where we had to go completely virtual. How might we overcome a virtual environment? The second idea I want to touch upon is this idea of yes and. Now, we're all students, and a lot of us are engineers, but we have a lot of team members who are in different disciplines. And so oftentimes when we're ideating, we might have different ideas and different concepts of how things might go. But instead of bringing one another down, we want to build on each other. We want to take the core concepts that that person is presenting and build upon it. So that way we have a strong foundation, bouncing off of one another in order to reach an idea's true potential. Now, the last idea I want to touch upon, and this is an idea I think permeates every single project that we've created, is this idea of reframing the project. It's an idea that permeates both the how might we and the yes and, because we want to take a different perspective. If we followed the flow, then this project might be completely different. A lot of you might not be here. But when we took a different angle, it was able to reach new heights. We were able to get new ideas. And so because of that, we were able to do a lot of cool things. Now, some other ideas that we learned in Austria that I want to bring up Nelson for is this idea of interdisciplinary and partidisciplinary learning.
Yes, so one of the first projects that we had was focused around the SIU Green Roof, reframing it and asking the question, how might we inspire other students here on campus to find their own passions through different projects hands-on in an outdoor, interdisciplinary space. But little does many people know, the first project we had was actually a pivot. The initial idea was building a green roof on the engineering building and having the project focus in that one area. Now, little did I know as a sophomore and not too experienced in the university setting that finding the funding alone would be difficult, and then adding onto the development side, understanding the structural integrity of the roof, and all the little add-ons that comes with bureaucracy is quite hectic and can be a project killer at times. So, as a result, the dean at the time, Scott Ishman, brought it to my attention that we have the agriculture building, and that would be an amazing and a potential idea to be able to pursue. So coming up next is Dr. Groninger, who will talk more about his perspective of the Green Roof Project in its early beginnings.
Thanks, Nelson. So my introduction to this project was the then acting dean at the time brought Nelson by. So this is Nelson. He's an engineering student. He wants to do something on the green roof. So my office is one of those windows right there. So my perspective on the green roof is one as part of my day-to-day landscape. And my first thought, okay, engineering student wants to do something on the green roof. I hope they don't drill any holes in the roof. I hope the project is not something I'm going to have to clean up when it's attempted and the big idea doesn't work out all the way. I've been down this road a little bit with other students. So my expectation was that the student is going to get an experience, they're going to learn something, they're going to move on, and that's going to be the end of it. So I remember the speechless Nelson at that moment, and that's what was going through my head, that this was going to be something of a fairly limited scope. I had no idea going into the future that not only with COVID going along, that this is something that would not only reach fruition. I would have been satisfied with the first slide that Nelson showed, and that being it, let alone the rest of the things that go along with this. So I think what was so remarkable about this is I made a suggestion to Nelson to try to think about something about how this could benefit future students. He just kind of smiled. So I didn't really expect him to take it to heart, and I'm just flabbergasted to be at the point where we have a project that not only is thinking about sustainability and future energy and in that type of conventional sense, or even building leadership capacity among the students who are here, who are all going to be gone soon, and the impact that they're going to have on the world, but we'll still be here at SIU, those of us who work here, and there's still going to be this space. But the fact that this has opened the door for not only encouraging students who are here, but to have an infrastructure and an idea plan in place to do something that is going to make room for other people's ideas. And I think that is, to me, the most profound thing about this is the forward thinking to not only make room for your own ideas, but for the ideas of people who you will never ever meet. And it's a beautiful thing. Thanks, Nelson. I believe Zach is our next speaker.
Actually,
Oh, okay. So.
yeah, that's okay. Thank you, Dr. Groninger. So now we get to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've developed, because we've mentioned a lot of the inspirations that defined us, and so now we get to see how those inspirations have directly been implemented. And so one of the first projects that we actually worked on was the irrigation system. When Nelson brought the idea to me, as we mentioned, we wanted to create sort of a sustainable hub, a place where people can do research on the green roof. And the best way for us to establish this was to lead by example. And so irrigation was one of our first projects where it served essentially as a testing ground for us. That first year had a lot of iteration and prototyping. We identified that we could remove the need for someone to manually turn on the water every day. And through iteration and prototyping, we were actually able to develop a 3-phase plan. Now, the first phase was implemented, and we call it the timer-based system. So on that picture on the right, that's kind of our first prototype that we put on the roof, where we have that little solenoid valve that's controlled by those wires, and it actually was fully controlled by code. So now this removed the need for someone to have to go up there and manually turn on the faucet. And while we were developing this, we actually submitted this prototype to the Stanford Tree Hacks Hackathon, and Nelson developed a slightly different prototype, but took the core concepts, and we won the best beginner hack for it. That showed us that this project could be something amazing. But as I said, this is only phase 1 of our three-step plan, and so the other 2 phases, if we wanted to implement them, we needed to take the next step And the next step for us actually required a little bit of funding. And so while this was all happening, we were actually applying and successfully received the REACH grant. And so I wanted to thank Dr. Gary Kinsel and the Office of the Vice Chancellor of Research for allowing us the funds to enact this plan. Can we give a round of applause for that? And so with this funding, we're able to develop phase 2 of our 3-phase plan. Now, this is what I like to call the queen bee system. On the roof, we put sensors across the entire plot of land, as you can see right there. Those little pipes have sensors under them, and so they were connected to a box, which actually we have on the table over there that you can take a look at. That box was collecting data, specifically soil moisture, and we were taking that and sending it to a microcontroller, specifically an Arduino. We would then send that data to a Raspberry Pi, which is again another microcontroller, but slightly more powerful. And so over winter break, we left the system running by itself and collected hundreds of thousands of data points. And from there, once we came back, we enacted phase 3 of our plan, which is to create an autonomous irrigation system. We wanted to have it so that Raspberry Pi would train a machine learning model, and that machine learning model would then take in all the data along with a few new variables such as temperature, rain. We actually tried to take Google data and predict when weather would come. And we take all these in and train a machine learning model that would then tell the system when we want to water it. And because of that, we were able to actually get some really good results. And so on this side, these are some of the graphs that we have, and it looks a little confusing at first, so I'll try to run down. The first one was kind of our control experiment, where we manually turned on the water, and so these spikes right here represent each of the times that we watered it. And the way the graph works is the higher the value is, the drier the soil is. So you can see that we have 4 spikes here, compared to the bottom, which was when we let the system do its own thing. We autonomously watered the system. And you can see that there's 2 spikes. We ended up saving about 50% of water. I think our numbers went from 419 gallons to 270, something along those lines. On top of that, our machine learning model had a 74% accuracy, which doesn't sound like a lot, but because there's so many different variables and so many different things that can go wrong, and especially with weather, where the weather can change at any moment. The fact that we have a higher than 50% is still pretty good to me, and there's definitely a lot of iteration that we have to do. This system is only the first step of something that we can do to make it even better. And I believe that what we have here is the beginning of something great for this system. But while we were developing this, I want to take a step back and talk about another subject, and I want to specifically bring up Tanner Clark for this. Clean energy is something that's really important to us as we're here through the rest of the night. And I want to bring Tanner up to talk about clean energy.
Thank you, Prem. So in addition to irrigation, a lot of our projects in the past couple years have revolved around alternative energy. Specifically, how might we harness solar energy and wind energy for many different use cases? We were trying to apply these potential reservoirs of energy for anything from your phone, charging a small electrical device like that, to powering the section of an entire university. Because of such a large change in magnitude, all of our projects really diverged in really, really interesting ways. We had to apply a lot of different skills in order to meet those needs. Oh, let me see, there we go. So, as you can see from the slide here, we had to use a lot of different skills. You can see we were testing additive manufacturing for weatherization. We were creating our own generators. We were using circuitry. We were even using more traditional manufacturing methods like plasma tables, what you might see in a machine shop. In the following slides, the people who worked on those projects will go into further details, and we've got a bunch of our results over on the table there. After the presentation, we'd love to just talk your ear off about all that stuff. But the common thread between all of those things, and irrigation included, is a desire to innovate and educate one another. That has been a huge incentive for each member of the Green Roof team. It's what's held us together to face challenges. We hope that through our desire to educate and innovate one another, we will continue to improve upon our projects, and we also aim to continue inspiring others around the world to make their communities more adaptive, more resilient, and more beneficial to everyone. This coming century is going to have a lot of different challenges. A lot of different things are going on in the world, but we are really fortunate to also have so many tools at our disposal to educate ourselves, make ourselves more independent of large systems, and enable us to better serve our neighbors. So, to that end, one of our projects was inspired by the question, how might we contribute towards installing more clean energy in communities around the world?
So the best answer we came up with for that answer is a disaster relief wind turbine. A wind turbine that the average person can make. Now what does that mean? It's a wind turbine that would be able to charge small electronic devices and is actually made from repurposed common items that they scavenged from their neighborhood or surrounding areas, or possibly even bought from local shops. It also needed to be something that you could create with the skills that the average person has, meaning no welding, no soldering, nothing that is a special skill. We also conducted some weatherized research for additive manufacturing. We decided that our generator would be 3D printed and that we would make sure that design was actually available to the average person so anyone with a 3D printer could create it. That also added the issue of 3D prints in weather. They are typically not going to do well. So we actually decided to conduct our own research for finding ways to coat them with different household items, again, common items that the average person can get a hold of, and make sure that the 3D prints are weatherized and would last a lot longer. We also decided to extend this not just to people that had suffered from a natural disaster, but to the nearly 1 billion people on Earth that don't have a consistent power grid. We decided to actually look at other countries and see what their needs were based on the common household items that they have and what we could use. The way that we actually did this was by conducting not just the design, but also building instructions for that design so that the average person could actually build it. We used these instructions and actually had people build this turbine and had them give us feedback on our instructions so that we could further improve it.
So, with the human element in mind, getting feedback from other people, identifying their needs, we went through our design process. Began with ideation, coming up with the ideas to address a problem. From there, we would design, we would embody those concepts. Then we would actually create the thing. Of course, you got to build it. And then finally, we would test and say, oh, wow, this doesn't work. It's broken. All right, we'll start again. And we do that again and again and again. One of the examples is with our blade carousel. You can actually see that over there too. I'd be happy to tell you all about it afterwards. We designed that first using computer software, and then we built it and we tested it. We saw what worked, what didn't, and we improved from there. With all the different subsystems, we did this again and again and again, each time learning something more. But instead of telling you all about that, I'd much rather show you. See if it works. So this is an alternator. We tried taking that apart and seeing if we could generate electricity with that. That was one of our attempts. Then we were spooling and coiling our own wires to make our generator. This is with an in-hub motor. We tried that as well. Prem and other members did a lot of computer coding with Arduino to actually be able to collect data and make measurements. And then here's us making the blade carousel, trying it out in many different ways, and seeing how we can apply that and how we can actually make that effective. see. At the end of the entire process, this is one of the forms that we came up with. It actually became very modular in nature. As you can see, it has a tall tower to suspend the blade carousel. From there, the blades capture the wind and it pushes it around. That brings energy, travels through a shaft into the generator, which then generates the electricity, and then through circuitry that we designed, it becomes managed, so it becomes usable electricity that then gets sent into a battery for storage.
So we decided to conduct a little bit of research and sent out a survey actually to people from other countries so we could ask them what items they had in their household, as well as different things such as conducting weather research to find out areas with high wind potential. Obviously, since it's a wind turbine, that was a very important factor in deciding where we would target our groups for. After we received that, we actually decided to tailor our design to those items that they had at their disposal, as well as those areas. Now, we decided to minimize the cost and the construction time at this past semester. We had already created a working design, so we decided to make something that would be easier and better for the average person to make. We got it down to under 3 days to construct this wind turbine from scratch. And we, again, received feedback from the people that actually were using and building this turbine. At the beginning of the research, when we were just starting the green roof team, the pandemic was just starting as well. That led to a unique issue of us needing to be an online team. And that was a hurdle that I wasn't sure we would actually get past. Instead of it becoming a challenge and an obstacle, we actually decided to make it an opportunity for us. We actually recruited people from all over the country and from all over the US entirely, from different territories to several states away, that would never have been able to be a part of our team otherwise. Because of that, we were able to have a much broader set of perspectives, as well as people that were more dedicated to this project. An example of that is actually our team that performed at the NREL competition.
Thank you. Working remotely has definitely become a new challenge for all of us. However, our team has decided to take that challenge and turn it into an opportunity. In doing so, last semester we decided to participate in the NREL competition that is hosted by the U.S. Department of Energy and the National Renewable Energy Laboratories, or NREL. The Solar District Cup competition is focused on designing and modeling a solar PV system that is both efficient and cost-effective. Since this project was hosted primarily online, working remotely has really become an advantage to us, and it has enabled us to collaborate with team members from across the United States in places like Texas and Ohio. This competition really challenged us to critically think about how to design a solar PV system and how to analyze it. Some of the main sections of this solar proposal included the conceptual design, and as you can see from the screenshot, that includes choosing which buildings we're going to install in, to seeing what type of solar module we might use. Another important section of this solar proposal is called the Distribution System Impact Analysis, and this just means that we needed to look at our solar design and see how that's going to affect the electrical grid that it is connecting to. Along the way, many resources were provided to us by NREL, such as live webinars and online training courses that really gave us a better understanding into each section of this solar proposal. You're behind me.
While doing research, we reached out to a knowledgeable individual, Kyle Smith from Supplied Energy. Kyle proved to be one of our biggest resources, as we reached out to him numerous times to discuss our designs as well as
the more technical aspects of what we needed to know for our competition. Kyle shared knowledge on solar projects by explaining components and how to connect them correctly. We want to thank him for his assistance, and we could not have made all the progress that we did without him. He's not here, unfortunately, but I would have called him out. Putting together the PV system was an incredible journey and one with lots of ups and downs. It was not easy, but we are very proud to say that last week we did submit our final proposal, and today we ended up submitting our presentation, which we will be giving on Sunday to the judges. We are excited to share with you the progress that we've made and announce how we perform within the competition. And then just a few more slides that we didn't go through. As you can see, the members of the Green Roof team have learned a lot since its inception. I personally am a computer science major, and I knew nothing about electrical before I met the people here. From internet resources to advice from professors, each one of us has gained a lot from our time here, but no interactions have been as valuable to us as those with our sponsors, specifically Clayton Hanks from CH Electrical. Now, Clayton got hung up at another job, so he can't make it to us tonight. But we want to thank him for all of the support that he gave us, for introducing us to Kyle Smith from Supplied Energy, and just being an overall great resource for us. He even donated a solar panel that we could take apart to see how it worked and learn more about the intricacies of solar PV systems. Clayton played an integral role with our team, and we want to present a commemorative plaque to him. Nelson over here is modeling it for us. And we will be giving this to Clayton the next time we see him. Thank you, Vanna White. Trade me?
So Clayton played a big role with us, especially this past year. He's someone that just came out of the shadows, gave myself a phone call because he saw what we were doing on Instagram, and asked how he could become involved. How can he help? And we took every advice we could from him and every connection he made, like Kyle Smith. But one big project that I personally feel the most connected to, and many of our team members, is the temporary wind turbine project. That is a project being led by our amazing PhD student at University of Texas, Dallas, Gustavo. And it included many different team members, not only from SIU Carbondale, but many others from the other universities that are involved. A few key team members are Hayne Het-Wayne from Case Western University in Ohio, Edverdo Van Labarca Torres, a alumni of the Inter-American University of Puerto Rico, Katarina Garcia, a senior in mechanical engineering at Texas A&M, Icaro Pinero, a sophomore in electrical engineering from Broward College in Florida, and Alexander Elder. When he first joined us, he was I believe, a technician at a few different companies in Florida. He joined us. After about a year, he found a new position as an associate engineer in Maryland, and he also became inspired by working with us that he began going back to college. He was about 8 years after high school, and after working with us, he saw the value of going back to university and getting a degree. And that's just one example of an impact that we had from a personal connection we made on the team. But before we go into the nitty-gritty details of the wind turbine that you can see in the back corner, there are three key actors, stakeholders, that played a big role in having the project executed and installed on the College of Agriculture. The three individuals are Karen Truebecker from the Sustainability Office, who offers the Green Fund Grant, an amazing program that allows students to find their projects, develop it, and execute, as well as Brian Goecki and Justin Harrell from Facilities and Energy Management. And they played a key role with us on the more engineering side, and they played a big role overall, and we appreciate their time, because I'm betting in their job description, nowhere does it say they focus on helping students. They're giving their time towards students, So we appreciate every email, every conversation, every second they put towards us, because they are the reason why we're able to have our projects executed and be able to take that step back and see the larger vision. So now Gustavo will go into the more details on the engineering side. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Nelson. Well, when we remember the beginning of the wind turbine project, what we had in front of us was just a crazy idea to generate energy on top of the building, and a group of students from a lot of different universities that were willing to work together for this main goal. Since then, Nelson gave me the role of the manager of this part of the green roof, and it was amazing. We could see growth week after week, meeting after meeting from our group. One thing that we did then was to follow a formal path of design, okay? So we decided to follow product design with engineering design. And for this, we decided to break the project into 4 main phases. The first phase is the conceptual design. So in the conceptual design, ideas were brought to the table. That's when the students made research, and we made a lot of brainstorming, and all these ideas were screened for for choosing the best one for our purposes. After this first phase, we have the initial configuration of our wind turbine. We have the tower type defined, we have the number of blades, and we have the generator size. After this phase came the preliminary design. So in the preliminary design, the initial calculations were made and the initial sizing of the system was defined. That's when we chose the initial airfoils for our blade, because you first choose the airfoil and then you make the blade. Multiple blades were designed, and then they were compared for finding the optimal design for our goal. Also, during this phase, the tower was designed, and the guy wires were sized for safety and stability of the wind turbine. The third phase was the detail design, right? Now we have everything. We have the concept, we have the preliminary design, then we can make the final design, the detail design, where the final calculations were made, all the screws and attachments were defined. Also, the blades were tested with CFD analysis, fluid dynamics, and also finite element analysis method. And then comes the fourth and final stage of our project, which is the manufacturing. This is the most exciting part of our project, because that's when all our ideas becomes true, right? And that's when we're able to build our wind turbine. That's our tower, and that's our turbine. Also, during this phase, we decided to use carbon fiber lamination, which is a very, very modern way of developing things. And this is Tanner, very proud of his work. Yeah. Very good.
Shout out. So I'm really not the main one who's put this stuff together. Main one there is Josh. He's shy, probably won't, but he's over there. We've been working on this a lot, and this is just our first rough draft, and we've already got ideas to improve it. So yeah, like Gustavo mentioned, it's really awesome to see it all come together, you know?
Exactly, and when you see this blade and you see the drawing, this is very, very like realistic. So we are very proud of this. It's still with some room for improvements, but that's their main goal. And Guys, that's it. In conclusion, this project not only gave us a tower or a wind turbine in the roof. This project was way more than that. Every step we learned a lot. We created a lot of friendship, and in the end, we really could feel and see the impact that Nelson was talking in the beginning of this presentation. Yeah, thank you.
So in the end, we're focused on the bigger picture, helping inspire other students to become involved, to be able to get hands-on with the engineering design, as well as different areas of the team, from the solar, the irrigation, and the marketing. So Gustavo, myself, Prem, and many others, we saw the opportunity to continue expanding the team. So we used LinkedIn, one of our friendly social media platforms, and put out different job listings for unpaid internship programs. Now, keep in mind that every team member involved is considered a volunteer. We come together, we spend our time together, we learn a lot, and we build commodity. So we saw the opportunity to expand the team out further and bring in different students all together. So for this past semester, we had a cohort of 4 students, mainly master's and PhD students on the wind turbine design, led by Gustavo, and then myself leading and managing 4 students on the marketing end. And we saw the value of delegation, which is a skill and lesson learned many of our team members learned, is being able to see that bigger picture and understanding who's interested in what areas and how we can engage them to think bigger and go after those ideas.
Yes, so for the hiring process, it's very good to point how was to be in the side of the hiring manager this time. So we analyzed a bunch of resumes and we selected the best ones according to our goals. The idea was to come up with a team that was going to help us into improving our current wind turbine and also develop more innovation on top of that. So we focused on graduate students, and also we focused on hiring one student for each specific area: aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, and also wind turbines as a whole. This process was very interesting, and this is one of our interns, Ansh. He's a specialist in wind turbines. Yeah.
And we saw the value come out of them from over the past several months, just what the lessons that they're gaining out of us and what we were able to provide them, so we can have a well-rounded experience for not only ourselves, but for everyone being involved. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to be able to help everyone who's involved find that next step, find what they're passionate about, and this is how we get them to that end goal. So we enjoyed our time with the different interns. They were able to tackle projects that we're not the most capable of, because these are areas that they're specialized in. Among everyone on the Green Roof team, Prem is the most specialized in the marketing area, but he cannot simply tackle everything we have in front of us. But instead, he was able to take that step back and oversee all the content being produced and seeing what's best for the team as a whole. What's going to help us be able to push out the most content to the largest degree possible to help them join us on the journey and be able to see that larger picture. As I mentioned earlier, we had a podcast that began last summer, and initially the goal was finding ways on providing professional development to our students, being involved, having a half-hour, hour-long talk about topics that they're knowledgeable about, so when they go to interviews, this is something that they can show recruiters. This is something that can help give them a step up and be able to showcase who they are. However, plans do change, pivots are taken, but in this case, it was a beautiful one. We had people coming to us and asking if they can jump onto the show, if we can help promote them while bringing new lessons and new perspectives to our audience. We had guests like Adam Vogel, an SIU alumni from the Mechanical Engineering Department and a University of Innovation Fellow. He was an amazing individual, and he talked about the culture of innovation here on campus and be able to give that inside view on what he learned here on campus and how his UIF project was able to connect domestic students to internationals through hour-long weekly coffee hours. We also had CEOs of companies from Rick Eigelberry of Origin Clear. They're focused on tackling water sanitation, building and developing these modular water treatment plants, and being able to install into industry so when the wastewater is leaving, the utility company has cleaner water to be able to process than having to filter it down even further. So we're able to take away even more lessons from executives and different individuals out in industry. So now I'm betting everyone is a bit confused, perhaps. We talked about our projects, the larger impact, but then we brought in new ideas from the internship programs, the podcast, talking to industry. So the question becomes, what is next? So as a team, we thought about what can we do? What do we have in our possession? What type of brand do we have with us right now? And how can we continue to develop and leverage what we have now to be able to continue making impact? So we developed the how might we statement of how might we impact the world and spread clean energy education. So we are proud to announce that the Green Roof team is now the Green Roof Team LLC.
Can't be an event without some issues, you know. That's our first business struggle right there, is figuring out how we're gonna make sure all the equipment is safe. So a lot of you are probably wondering why we decided to go towards LLC. And the main reason is that we've built such strong momentum here. Our vision is clear: to provide sustainable opportunities and awareness to as many people as we can. We want to spread the word of clean energy. We want to push sustainability. And the best way to do that is to form into an LLC. Now, our LLC has 3 key functions. Firstly, we want to continue the success that we found in our internship program. We want to offer one-on-one mentoring for students in clean energy and marketing. We want to continue inspiring people. We want to continue to teach people. And building upon that, our second function is to create educational kits that we've developed. A lot of the projects that we've talked about have gone through a strong refinement in manufacturing and design. And we want to take this further by creating kits that can be brought to you guys. So that way you can go through the experiences that we've had. You can see what we found so interesting about this project and why we're so passionate and inspired. And the next function is creating a storefront where we'll be selling these kits alongside other merchandise. And the reason we're doing this is because as we've developed this project, we've learned the importance of brand awareness. When I saw that logo for the first time, to me, it didn't remind me of something big. It reminded me of something small, but something that can grow. That's why we have that little sprout there, because we want to grow. And our logo represents that ability to grow. And so having this storefront allows us to grow our brand awareness and push sustainability to places we may not know. The University Innovation Fellows taught us the importance of connections, and this is why something like this is so important. Now, talking about brand awareness, while our chapter at Southern Illinois specifically is closing, we're extremely excited to share this next chapter with all of you. And you can continue to follow our journey on any of these social medias. Alongside, if you scan that QR code, you'll take us directly to our website, where you'll find a more condensed place to get access to social media. We actually just redesigned it, and so we're really excited about that.
And we are proud to announce that with the website development, we did receive a grant from the Illinois Manufacturing Center Excellence Center that is actually down the hall in the SIU Research Park. And they were able to help connect us with a vendor who does web development out of Carolina. So we're able to have a more fulfilled and reaching out website that's able to reach a larger crowd of individuals. So now coming towards the end, there are 2 more people we would like to recognize. especially when it came to the LLC side. It was a new area for all of us, especially myself. And those are two SIU alumni and University of Innovation Fellows, Jay Condon and Nate Jordan. And I believe Nate is here today, or not. Okay. So as Prem said, as our journey here at SIU is coming towards a close, it was a beautiful one. We're able to make many connections here on campus from professors, faculty, and staff, and along the way, different friends from other universities and other countries. It was a fulfilling journey, and I can say on the behalf of everyone that we enjoyed every moment, all the highs, all the lows, but we're all ready to move forward to our next step. But before we conclude, there are 4 individuals here today that we would like to thank. These are the people that allowed Prem and myself personally to grow and flourish. And without these 4 people and others who couldn't be here today, no one would be here today, to be all honest. Because we were able to grow in a loving, caring environment, and we're able to see a larger picture. So please give a round of applause to Prem's father, Mr. Rana, my parents, and my sister. Thank you again, everyone, for being part of our journey, and we are sure to keep everyone updated as we progress with the business and continuing to impact the world the best we can. Thank you. Also, as you leave, we have cookies and refreshments if you'd like to grab on the way out. We have our Green Roof team members and different items if you would like to learn more about anything. And thank you.